Chapter 2. Blood Money. The morning sun crept over the skyline of Los Angeles, painting the city in shades of orange and gold. The streets, still slick from the night before, bore the remnants of the carnage that had unfolded. Dre and J Rock sat in Dre's apartment, a dimly lit space in Baldwin Village known as the Jungles. The room smelled of stale smoke and gunpowder, a reminder of the life they had chosen. Dre's mind was racing, thoughts colliding like the bullets that had torn through the walls the night before. Nico Bone Martinez had made his move, and now it was Dre's turn to strike back. This wasn't just about territory anymore, it was personal. Nico had sent a message, and Dre was ready to respond with fire and blood. J Rock lit a blunt, the thick smoke curling around his head as he leaned back on the worn-out couch. His eyes were cold, calculating, the same look he had when he was about to make a move. "We can't let this slide, Dre. We gotta hit back, and we gotta hit hard. Nico thinks he can run us out? Nah, we run this shit." Dre nodded, his jaw clenched tight. He wasn't one for reckless moves, but this was different. Nico had crossed a line, and the only way to settle this was with blood. "We hit him where it hurts," Dre said, his voice low and steady. "His money, his crew, everything. We take it all." J Rock grinned, his teeth white against his dark skin. "I like the sound of that." The plan was simple, but deadly. Nico's crew was moving product through a stash house in East LA, a rundown warehouse that served as the hub for his operations. Dre knew that if he could hit that spot, it would cripple Nico's cash flow and send a message that South Central wasn't up for grabs. The night was quiet as Dre, J Rock, and their crew rolled up on the warehouse. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made your skin crawl and your heart race. Dre's mind was focused, every detail of the plan mapped out in his head. There was no room for mistakes. They moved like shadows, slipping through the darkness, guns in hand, eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. The warehouse loomed ahead, a silent monolith in the night. Dre signaled for the crew to split up, two of them taking the back while he and J Rock moved in through the front. The door creaked open, revealing the dimly lit interior of the warehouse. The air inside was heavy with the smell of chemicals and sweat, the byproducts of the drug trade. Stacks of cash sat on tables, surrounded by scales, baggies, and kilos of cocaine. Nico's men were scattered around the room, some counting money, others guarding the product. They were oblivious to the danger creeping up on them. Dre didn't hesitate. He stepped into the room, his gun raised, and opened fire. The first shot echoed through the warehouse, followed by screams and the sharp crack of return fire. J Rock was right behind him, his gun blazing as he cut down the guards near the door. The room erupted into chaos, bullets flying in every direction, the smell of blood and gunpowder filling the air. One of Nico's men tried to make a run for it, but Dre was faster. He caught him in the chest with a burst of fire, the man dropping to the ground, his blood pooling beneath him. Another thug charged at J Rock with a knife, but he was no match for the gun in J Rock's hand. The shot rang out, the man's body jerking as the bullet tore through his chest. The last man standing was a skinny kid, no older than 19, shaking as he pointed a gun at Dre. His hands trembled, his eyes wide with fear. Dre looked him in the eyes, seeing the desperation, the fear of death that every street soldier carried. But this was war, and Dre had no mercy left to give. He squeezed the trigger, and the kid dropped, his body hitting the ground with a dull thud. The warehouse was silent, save for the sound of dripping blood and the crackling of burning powder. Dre walked through the carnage, his heart pounding, his mind cold. He had sent his message. Nico's operation was in ruins, his men dead, his product destroyed. But Dre knew this was far from over. J Rock stepped up beside him, a look of satisfaction on his face. "That's how we do it, Dre. That's how we run this shit." Dre didn't smile. He knew the storm that was coming, the blood that would be spilled. But this was the life he had chosen, and he was ready to face it. "This ain't over, Rock. Nico's gonna come for us, and when he does, we'll be ready." The two of them walked out of the warehouse, the night air cool against their skin. Behind them, the flames began to rise, engulfing the warehouse in a blaze of orange and red. It was a funeral pyre for Nico's dreams, and a warning to anyone who thought they could challenge Dre's reign. The streets of Los Angeles were a battlefield, and Dre was determined to be the last man standing.